It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning to the John Fredericks Media Network. We are indeed broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee State Capitol, where next week the Tennessee General Assembly will be convening. Hello to everyone out in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Georgia and throughout Tennessee, listening on terrestrial radio. And hello to everyone listening to us on the net. Big things happening here with the John Fredericks Radio Network. You'll be able to see us on the John Fredericks OTT network on the internet, live and in color. I think it's going to start in February. It's going to be on Apple and Roku and Fire Stick, everything. Rumble. It's so exciting. It's the new conservative media. All right, folks, it's that time of day again. It is time for the Morning Rundown, brought to you by the Glock Store on the web at glockstore.com, located just a few miles from the airport, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. So here we go. Here's the Morning Rundown for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. Number one, 1 hour, 4 days, 1 week rather, 4 days, 1 hour and 54 minutes and 30 seconds until Donald J. Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States of America. But who's counting? Tick, tock, tick, tock. That clock is running so slow. But he's going to be inaugurated very soon. Can't wait. Number two, Donald Trump. His appeal to the Supreme Court is going to be heard by Justice Sotomayor. That's the way they work it when you have an emergency appeal. She had asked for the Department of Justice and the New York State the district attorney in Manhattan to provide her a response to Donald Trump's emergency request to stay the sentencing hearing, which is now scheduled for tomorrow by the corrupt judge Juan Merchan. Anyway, Sotomayor said, okay, well, send me your response, DOJ and Alvin Bragg, by 10 o'clock Eastern time, which means she has it. She got about 7 minutes ago. What is she going to do? Is she going to make a decision on her own, or is she going to refer it to the full court? Seems to me the right thing to do is to refer it to the full court and let the full court decide. If they're going to decide, well, they're going to have to do it by close of business today, don't you think? Because the hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. It's a crazy hearing. All they're trying to do is put the label convicted felon on Donald Trump. You can't put that label on until you've been sentenced. So we'll see how that plays out. It's Sonny Sotomayor, so who knows? Number three, terrible fires in Los Angeles continue. And the devastation, it's apocalyptic, biblical. And the governor there and the mayor have done a terrible job on it. We've got some really interesting clips of them talking about, and it shows just how incompetent they are. Number four, Donald Trump had a tour de force press conference again yesterday. It was at the U.S. Capitol, and we'll have some of those clips. Number five, here in Nashville, they arrested 5 people allegedly running a brothel in part of Nashville called Antioch. Turns out they all have Hispanic names, and the spokesperson for the Metro Nashville Police says, yeah, we think they're from Venezuela. Are they illegal? Didn't say that. Are they Tren de Aragua? Didn't say that. They probably were. We'll have a report in our third hour from Tom Pappert on that. Number 6, Todd Bensman with the Center for Immigration Studies will be here in our second hour. He's going to give us a report on the border. Number 7, John McLaughlin, the pollster for Donald Trump, will be here at the bottom of this hour to give us a sense of what's polling going on and how do you conduct a poll of the 54,000 Greenlanders to see if they want to join the U.S. That's kind of fun. We'll talk about that. And then finally, in our second hour, the great Neil McCabe will come and give us his analysis of everything that's going on in the country. So there we go. That's the morning rundown for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. Brought to you, of course, by our friends at the Glock Store. You know, I heard from my good friend Lenny McGill, the founder and CEO of the Glock Store. All of the advertising here has done well because they're telling me at glockstore.com they've seen an uptick in sales from cities that get the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. So thank you. And for the Glock guys and gals who haven't had the opportunity to visit glockstore.com, you really should. Here's why. Not only do they always have every Glock in stock, they only stock the very best Glock parts and accessories, including the very hard-to-find Glock Performance trigger. They know they're the best. Why? Because they personally test each and every one of these accessories. If Lenny McGill doesn't like it, it doesn't get on the glockstore.com website. If he really likes a product, he features that product on his great YouTube channel. Did you know Lenny has a YouTube channel? You got to go there. This had for, a long time, well over a decade. He's put together nearly 1,000 videos about Glocks and Glock parts and how to use them. If you aren't a fan yet, go to youtube.com/@Glockstore. That's youtube.com/@Glockstore. You learn a lot. And of course, Lenny is such an outstanding communicator and high energy and very focused. Don't forget to go to glockstore.com, sign up for their weekly sales letters. You'll even get a link to the latest Lenny McGill video every Wednesday afternoon. I'm proud Lenny McGill is a friend and sponsor. Visit glockstore.com today. You'll be glad you did, and so will I. So there you go. All right, let's get to it. If you haven't seen this clip yet, sit down, because the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who basically is a Marxist, was in Ghana for the inauguration of the president of Ghana while the fires were starting and raging in Los Angeles. She was captured at an airport by a reporter for Sky News who tried to get her to say something about it. Here's clip 2. Let's see how that went.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning?
She's there.
Do you
not saying
regret
anything.
cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
Nothing.
Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
She's just standing there with a blank
Madam
look.
Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
Blank look on her face.
No apology for them?
Turning away. She's waiting for
Do you
the
think
door
you
to
should
open.
have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Of course not. She's looking at a guy outside the window. Open the door, please, so I can get out of here. Now she's moving. I don't know where that was taken. It was at an airport. She's left the airplane, and you know how you walk down these long halls to get to the main location. She's walking down it now with her security entourage around her, and she's walking into...
Madam Mayor, let me ask you just again, have you anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
She's saying nothing. There's another door. She can't get
Madam
through.
Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
I think that may have been a special area. I don't know how the guy got in there. It looks like...
David,
Okay,
as you
we
say,
can cover that. It looks like that video was taken. Somehow he got on the ramp off. I think it was at LAX, and she had like a private exit. But he got in there. She's looking like, I can't say anything. She doesn't have anything to say. She's a complete idiot. And she's the mayor of Los Angeles. She was in Ghana while the fires were raging. And she said nothing since. All right, when we come back, we'll have more on this. There's so much to talk about the LA fires. And got an idea there. I'm talking to a member of Congress today about something that may happen to help folks there. Back after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. Hey, if you want to call in and chat with us about the fires in Los Angeles, our number is 615-649-8477. 615-649-8477. Just tell our great producer, Patrick, your name and where you're calling from, and be on topic, right? Be on topic. 615-649-8477. Now it's time to call. Now, I want to talk a little bit. I had a conversation this morning with a member of Congress, and we were discussing an idea. A problem has arisen in Los Angeles with the insurance. It arose with home insurance. It arose several months ago because the state of California refused to allow home insurance companies to raise their rates because of the risk that fires might cause. And so as a result of the thousands of houses that have been totally destroyed, I think the vast majority of them do not have home insurance. And it's really a consequence of the state government's actions. So how do you solve that problem? Well, I have an idea that we discussed with this member of Congress. In essence, what you need to do is go back to those insurance companies that were forced to cancel these policies that left people without home insurance. And I think the federal government may have a role here to do some backup reinsurance and have those guys come back in. And I'll tell you, the insurance company that should lead the way, the insurance company that needs some good PR, Allstate, right? If that guy's listening, you should call your member of Congress now and say, yeah, we want to be part of the LA Fire Reinsurance Authority, right? So we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. Now, meanwhile, how did this thing all happen? Well, basically, it's left-wing liberal policies of Mayor Bass, of Governor Newsom. Three key elements. Number one, forest mismanagement. Number two, water mismanagement. And number three, personnel mismanagement. All terrible, terrible problems. Donald J. Trump was talking about this very thing 3 months ago in that exclusive interview, the 3-hour interview he had with Joe Rogan. It was a prophetic description of the problems in California. Here we go with Donald Trump 3 months ago talking with this about on Joe Rogan.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why don't you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land. Water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen that, are like.
Okay, so this is common sense. Listen, I'm telling you, we've talked about the golden age of America. It's the golden age of common sense in America, led by Donald J. Trump. When you listen to that, You say, there's a guy that knows how to get things done. Donald Trump knows how to get. You remember when he fixed that skating rink in New York City? The city took 10 years and wasn't able to get anything done. He got it done in 3 months for 10% of the cost, because it's common sense. That's what we need. Now, fast forward 3 months. Yesterday, he was at the Capitol talking with members of the United States Senate, and he just tore into Gavin Newsom, and for good reason. Here we go. Clip 4, Trump yesterday in the Capitol.
Mr. President, on California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes?
Well, it's very sad, because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop. It's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem, because you're talking about big, big dollars.
Okay, so there is Trump. There's the guy who understands how to make money in real estate. He looked at the Mar-a-Lago property back, I don't know, like 20 years ago, right? And Mar-a-Lago was built by, Maryland Post, I think. Became the serial heiress, Marjorie Meriwether Post, I think that was her name. And but it had gone sort of into disrepair. And he bought it, and he turned it into a magnificent facility, because he knows how to get things done. He knows how to create a great property. The guy understands real estate. He understands business. He understands insurance. Notice what he talked about the insurance problem. I think he's right. He's going to have to get this done. It's going to fall on the federal government to fix this problem. Now, Gavin Newsom. Oh, so Anderson Cooper went out there to try to provide Newsom some cover. Newsom showed up. You give him that. But he has no answers. We'll play clip 7 to talk about this. Clip 7. Who's going to fix the water problem?
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
What an idiot. Okay, this is the guy who blew up 4 dams that had huge water reservoirs to protect this smelt fish, and then also to provide salmon for the local Native Americans up there. That's why there's a problem. because of his stupid policies. And when Trump criticizes him, he goes running to mommy. Here we go, clip 18. Newsom on Trump.
People are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics.
Okay, well, you got to pause it here. Yeah. You know, they just didn't get the message. Dude, you're not getting anything done. I stood next to the president. He's got their backs. He doesn't have their backs. What did he talk about? I didn't play this clip. But so Los Angeles is burning to the ground because of the stupid state policies, because of the stupid federal policies. What did Joe Biden talk about? I got my first great-grandchild. Really? Read the room. I could use a different descriptor here, but I won't, out of respect for our audience. When we come back, it's going to be a lot of fun. John McLaughlin, the pollster for President Trump, will come and talk to us a little bit about, well, all the polling go on, the attitude toward the president changes, and, of course, how you do a poll in Greenland with 54,000 people. They don't have a television station there, I don't think. They have cell phones, though. How do you do a poll to see if they want to join the U.S.? Back with John McLaughlin after this.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. And we are joined on our Newsmaker line right now by our very good friend, the best pollster in America, in my view, who's been polling for Donald Trump for well over a decade, John McLaughlin. Good morning, John.
Pleasure to be back, Michael Patrick. And we're getting close to Inauguration Day, so it's exciting for us people that have been with President Trump and rode his coattails through 2016 and now 2024.
1 week, 4 days, 1 hour, 35 minutes, but who's counting? And 10 seconds. Who's counting? But who's counting?
The American people. It's been 4 years of, I mean, rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. Today they're having his funeral, even as we speak. And he was a good man, Christian and a person of integrity, but he was very liberal, and he didn't succeed during his presidency, and President Reagan was able to win. And 4 years ago, in February, I sat with President Trump and Jason Miller, who was his communications director, and a couple other advisors, and it was during the impeachment trial, the second trial, and he was out of office, and they were trying to already block him from running. And I told him, I said, my polls had 63% of all the Republicans want you to run again. And they, I said to him, with Reagan, after he didn't get the nomination in 4 years of Jimmy Carter, there was buyer's remorse, and he won in a landslide. And I said, what'll happen is, after 4 years of Biden's failure, they'll want you to run again, and you'll win. And little did I know how quickly Biden would fail.
Yeah.
And just when you think about it, Trump led in the national popular vote in our polls from September 21 after inflation kicked in and he surrendered to Afghanistan. And Trump never lost the popular vote lead in our polls, and we publish it on our website on McLaughlinOnline.com. And so for those of us who volunteered for Reagan back in '76 and '80, and then I went to work for one of his pollsters, Arthur Finkelstein, who discovered the Panama Canal issue and saved Reagan's career in '76 when they beat Gerald Ford in the Republican primary in North Carolina. For those of us who have been there and seen this, and I got to work in Reagan's reelection campaign because Finkelstein used to do polling for Deaver, and then all the years in between, worked for various candidates, Fred Thompson in Tennessee, et cetera. But for Trump to be successful in 2016 and then to win again this year, last November, it was historic.
When you spoke 4 years ago with Donald Trump, and you told him, when he was out of office for about a month, and you told him that Biden will fail, there will be buyer's remorse, and you will be elected in 2024. When you told him that, how did he respond to that statement?
Well, at the time he was watching the Senate try him on Fox News. He actually, all of a sudden, he was like, really? And I think it was gratifying. There he was at a time where, a lot of us thought, we were going to win that election. We knew it was going to be close. And by 44,000 votes out of 166 million, we had lost 160 million. We had lost 3 states, Arizona by 11,000, Georgia by 11,000, Wisconsin by 20,000. After going through that kind of loss and seeing Biden elected, it had to be particularly tough on him. And all of a sudden, it was, gratifying that his base was that loyal to him. His voters were that loyal to him. And it wasn't just about him personally, but it was the agenda, the idea of what he stood for, the tax cuts for economic growth, securing the border, keeping America strong and at peace, and getting out of the endless wars. He's very patriotic. I'm not sure he would have run again if all of a sudden Biden had been a moderate and kept a lot of Trump's policies in place. But when inflation was roaring, and it was roaring early, and they're still fueling it with government spending that's out of control. But after all that, Biden dismantling, just opening the border and the chaos and crime that's followed, and the fentanyl and the deaths, and then you see Ukraine, that war that would have never happened there, and the Middle East, Israel probably would have never been attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, he's so patriotic, and he cares so much about the country that he suffered so much where they tried to put him in jail, they tried to censor him, they tried to take away his business. And literally he survived an assassin's bullet because they didn't give him enough Secret Service protection.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of everything that he's gone through, he's so historic, where when he won in 2016, he called me and he was like, thank you about the results. And I told him, I said, look, and he says, it's a huge win in 2016. I said, not really. I said, you only won by, that year was 78,000 out of 139 million. And he said, but big electoral vote. And I said, no, Obama had more. And he said, and I hear this silence on the phone. And I said, but, this is the first time since anyone's ever beaten in history that beat the Republican establishment and then beat the Washington establishment. I said, maybe Andrew Jackson. And he realized the kind of historic candidate he was back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, when I went to the Oval Office and he had a picture of Jackson over his left side by the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, I'm like, thank God I didn't tell him Andrew Jackson had won 2 duels. But
that's funny. It's true though.
But it's true. But this time around, it's really the history he's made. No one's ever done this before. I mean, he just blew out the non-incumbent, blew out the primaries. He's turned the Republican Party into taking it away from the country club and turned it into the party of the working men and women of America. He expanded the party by winning huge shares of African-American men, Hispanic voters, historic levels of Hispanic voters, Jewish voters, younger voters. He won back the suburbs. He won back suburban women. So he's really, in spite of all the adversity that they threw at him to prevent him from winning again, he beat the D.C. and the world establishment. And Biden's giving a medal to George Soros on his way out the door. What did Soros ever do? I mean, he funded Open the Borders. He had the DAs that let criminals loose. It's just, I mean, he's, it's unbelievable what President Trump has had to endure to be able to, restore what the working people of America. People have been exploited the last 4 years. Inflation has killed. In our last national survey, 84% of all voters said they were, and this is as of December, negatively impacted by inflation. 49% to the point where they can't afford basic necessities. They said the economy, this is December, mid-December, they said the economy is getting worse, not better, 55 to 37. 66% said the country's still on the wrong track.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have an opportunity to change these things because Trump won the election. And he would not have won the election without, basically the working men and women and people across America saying that the establishment's got it all wrong and we've got to take back Washington. But now we have to do it. The government, winning an election is one thing, but trying to get the government to change and get the special interests out. Yeah, it's hard.
One thing to talk about. So I know, obviously, your polling was spot on in terms of the popular vote and the Electoral College vote for the November 5th election. There has been a change, a movement towards Trump. And the America First agenda. But I think, and here we are, it's January 9th. It's been now, 2 months plus. I think from a polling perspective and a public support perspective, this may be one of the most effective presidential transitions for the incoming president in American history. Do you see that? And what my theory is, Trump now is allowed to be Trump. Trump is a guy who's a business guy, who likes to work with people, who likes people, who wants to get things done for the American people. As the regime media has become less and less significant, and that message, that capability of Trump is seen by all Americans, I think his popularity and support has increased over the past 2 months. Is there any polling evidence that supports my thoughts on this?
Yes. I mean, you've hit it right on because we do have it on our website on McLaughlinOnline.com, and I think I've sent it to you. But on Election Day, part of our strategy was over the last 2 years to help us win the primaries and also the general election was to convince them that Trump would be a better president in his next term than he was in his first term, and they thought he was a good president because we based the campaign on comparing his record of success in his first term versus Joe Biden's record of failure. And Trump had, on Election Day in November, we had when you asked our job approval, we were 56% approved, 43 disapproved, which means that we only got 50% of the popular vote. We had 6 more points that we could have gotten. And Biden, in December, he has a 57 disapprove, only 40 disapprove. And that's really bad. And Harris was less popular, and Trump also had his highest favorable, was net positive on his favorable, unfavorable ratings. That was on Election Day. Now, in December, they waned a little because the campaign's over. We're not running TV ads anymore and that kind of stuff. But we're waiting to take control of the government. And that's going to be very hard because we got to get, even as I was waiting for your radio program, I'm hearing ads where they're advertising call your senator to get Pete Hegseth approved as defense secretary. Trump was more prepared. He's trying to, he's an older, wiser president now that although he doesn't like to think he's older, but he's wiser and he'll be a better president. But he's putting people in place instead of making deals with Washington, which he found in his first term. He's a businessman. He gives you his word. You can take it to the bank. It's hard to get him to give you his word, but you can take it to the bank.
Once you give his word, yeah, that is the hallmark of a great American businessman who he gives you his word and he honors his word. I mean, we built a country on that.
Yes, and the difference is in Washington, that's not the way they operate, and so he had to deal with things where. They told him, you do this, we'll get health care repealed, we'll do Obama. They lost by a vote. They couldn't deliver. And I'm telling the president, in December, I said, your tax cuts are enormously popular, and they helped us win. And people need that tax relief because of inflation. They want lower inflation. They want tax cuts that benefit them and not Washington. And during his first term, McConnell and Ryan told him, oh, you can't do tax cuts yet because we need savings from health care. Well, talk about savings. Who are we saving money? Are you saving the government money, or are you saving the taxpayers' money? So, in our December poll, the no tax on tips, people approved 71-21, including 64% of Democrats. No tax on Social Security, they approved 82-11, including 72% of the Democrats. No tax on overtime, 66-25 they approved.
So all of the tax is.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, John. I know you're very busy. Could you wait over this 3-minute break and come back and finish up with us? Do you have some time? Yeah. I want to talk, when we come back, I want to talk about the Trump reinvigoration of the Monroe Doctrine and Greenland. How do you pull 54,000 people in Greenland? Let's talk about that to see if they want to join the U.S. John McLaughlin back with us in just a minute.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We are rejoined on our Newsmaker line by the great pollster, John McLaughlin. John, I have watched with great interest and great enthusiasm the emergence of a vigorous, strong America First foreign policy by Donald Trump, which has three key elements at the start. Number one, we're going to buy Greenland. Number two, we're going to take over, get back the Panama Canal. Number three, we're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. I love all these things.
Right.
There does seem to be an acceptance, an excitement, an enthusiasm about America being back. Do you sense that, and do you have any polling information that would confirm my sense of that?
Well, I mean, we have not done our January. We do monthly surveys that we publish. That we do lots of surveys all the time for many clients, corporate and political, where we don't publish those numbers because they have value to our clients. But we do a monthly poll that we do publish, and we're going to do it after the inauguration because we want to see what President says in his inaugural speech and how the people react. However, from the December poll that we did, there's definitely a sense of optimism, but there's more of a sense that that we've got big problems still. I mean, Joe Biden is leaving a mess for President Trump, and the vast majority of voters know that. Now, as far as national security and this renewed optimism, it has to do. It's in President Trump's ratings that he's got a positive job approval and a positive personal rating, and he's using that political capital to reassert the United States because what he wants is peace. I mean, basically, he ran on a message of peace and prosperity. And you've got China and Russia, who are not democratic countries who, I mean, Putin, I think, holds elections but then shoots his pollster. So it's
Good thing you're not polling for him.
No, and they're encroaching, on the whole world, but when you look at the hemisphere, China has a base in Cuba. They have their companies operate on both ends of the Panama Canal, and that's a national security problem because if China decides to take Taiwan by force, we can't get our military ships through the Panama Canal because China will blow it up. But more important, in the short term, the Panama Canal was built with American money and labor. And, Jimmy Carter decided to give it back to the Panamanians, or give it to the Panamanians, which was a country that didn't exist until America, protected them. But the rates they're charging us for the shipping that's going through there and the benefits China's getting, Trump as a businessman is saying this has got to stop.
Got to stop.
And Greenland, he wants to buy it. Canada, he renegotiated with Canada and Mexico the North American Free Trade Act. He renegotiated that to a better deal for the United States. And now, after 4 years of open borders, the mess that Joe Biden left, you've got drugs coming over the border, fentanyl. Justin Trudeau did nothing to stop the abuse and the open borders. You're from upstate New York originally. I mean, you've got criminals and you've got illegal immigrants who are not just from the southern hemisphere. You've got Chinese coming across the border, and you've got fentanyl coming across the border, the northern border in New York and New England, and across the plains. And President Trump wants to stop that, secure the border. We don't need criminals coming in from Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, we don't need that at all. So next time you talk to the president, I'm going to make a suggestion to bring to his attention from a branding perspective. I do think that the America First foreign policy of Donald Trump, which is basically United States of America dominance within the Western Hemisphere. It was, in fact, originally the Monroe Doctrine back in the 1820s, where President Monroe put that forward. It is time for a reinvigorated doctrine, and I think we should call it the Trump Doctrine. And I think that America will support that. So I'm just going to suggest next time you talk to him that you put forward that branding, the Trump Doctrine.
I think you're going to see that, and usually, like, President Monroe, back in the day in the print medias and pamphlets, he didn't call it the Monroe Doctrine. They named it. When he said no foreign interference in this hemisphere, they called it the Monroe. The media called it, the media at the time, the print media called it the Monroe Doctrine. And I think as President Trump advances his peace through strength message, I think people will call it the Trump Doctrine.
Well, I'm going to call it the Trump Doctrine starting today. How's that sound?
Yeah, you're going to be you're definitely you understand branding, and I'm sure President Trump will be very happy with. But what's more important, the American people will be happy with the results, because what we want is peace. We want peace and security. We want peace and prosperity. Because if you're strong, like Reagan understood, if you're strong, the economy's growing and people are seeing real wealth, they're seeing their savings go up, their homes go up, their jobs getting better wages and lower inflation, then, the economic strength of the 80s gave us the strength to beat the Soviet Union and collapse communism. We need the Trump tax cuts to get, made permanent, which 7 out of 10 Americans support, because they don't want to pay the tax increases if it lapses.
Well, I got time for one last question. Yeah. We got about a minute and a half, but I want to get this out. So Greenland is a territory of Denmark. Mm-hmm. They have the right to have a referendum to be independent and then subsequently to join the United States. 54,000 people up in Greenland. I think political consultants in America are just can't wait to get up there to work on that referendum. How do you go about polling in Greenland to determine support for A, first independence, and B, becoming a territory of the United States?
You would have to, if you were going to do a polling, you would have to probably send people to do it in person. I mean, everybody has a cell phone up there, so you can reach them by cell phones. But people are probably, you're dealing with a indigenous population and a population that's really spread out among a few villages, not even cities.
If I find a PAC willing to fund a poll, would you guys go up and do it?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe. I can't send Don Jr. to go do it, though. He's been up there.
He's been up there already.
James Blair, the political director, they were up there a few days ago, and they had a great day.
Terrific.
And, it seems like their focus group, their
focus group was 100%. We're running out of time, John.
Yeah.
But come back again, and we'll talk more about polling in Greenland and the Trump Doctrine and the huge support for Donald Trump's agenda. John McLaughlin, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Great as always. When we come back after the break, Todd Bensman.